Hello, and welcome to another gentle journey on Sleepy Professor Stories. Tonight, we move slowly into a quiet exploration of DNA, not as a diagram or a lesson, but as something ancient and patient, resting inside every living thing. DNA can be imagined like a calm river of instructions, flowing steadily through time, passing softly from plant to animal, from ancestor to child. You do not need to hold on to details. This journey is simply about drifting beside these ideas, letting them pass like reflections on water and allowing curiosity to relax into calm. If you find comfort in these peaceful science wanderings, you may choose to like the video, subscribe, or leave a gentle comment for others who are looking for rest. There is no obligation at all. These small gestures are entirely optional, and they can always wait for another time. For now, there is nothing you need to do, nothing to solve, nothing to remember. You can allow your breathing to slow, noticing the quiet pause between each breath. Let your shoulders soften and gently fall away from your ears. Let your jaw loosen, your tongue resting comfortably, your hands becoming warm and heavy. It is perfectly fine to drift in and out of listening, to catch a few words and let the rest dissolve into the background. As we continue, the science will remain gentle and unhurried, explained through images that feel safe and familiar. DNA will reveal itself slowly, like a pattern emerging in low light, never demanding attention, never asking effort. Let's begin. You settle into stillness as this chapter begins, and the world around you grows quieter, as though it has decided to listen with you. There is nothing you need to focus on, nothing you need to hold tightly in your thoughts. You are simply here, resting in the gentle idea that something calm and continuous moves through all living things, unseen yet always present. DNA is not something you usually notice as you go about your day. It does not announce itself. It does not hurry or demand attention. It rests quietly inside every living cell, like a long, patient memory folded carefully out of sight. In plants stretching toward the light, in animals moving through forests and oceans, and in you breathing softly right now, this same presence exists, steady and unbroken. You can imagine DNA as a thread, impossibly fine, woven through the fabric of life. Not a thread pulled tight, but one that drapes gently, connecting without pressure. It does not tell life how to rush forward. It simply holds instructions in a calm and orderly way, allowing each living thing to become what it already is meant to be, at its own pace, in its own time. This thread has been passing quietly from one generation to the next for billions of years. Long before there were names for it, before there were microscopes or diagrams, it was already doing its quiet work. Life did not need to understand DNA in order to trust it. Cells divided, organisms grew, and ecosystems unfolded, all guided by this steady presence that never raised its voice. As you breathe in, you might picture this thread flowing gently, like a slow river moving through time. Rivers do not hurry. They follow the shape of the land, adapting without resistance. DNA moves in much the same way, shaping life not through force, but through continuity. It carries information forward, not with urgency, but with patience. Every living thing on Earth shares this same basic thread. The DNA inside a towering tree and the DNA inside a tiny insect are written in the same quiet language. The differences are not loud or dramatic. They are subtle shifts, small changes accumulated over long stretches of time. Beneath the surface variety of life, there is a deep sameness, a shared origin that hums softly beneath it all. You are part of this shared story, whether you think about it often or not. Your body carries instructions that once lived in countless beings before you. These instructions were never rushed. They were refined slowly, shaped by environments that changed gradually, like seasons passing one into another. There is something deeply calming in knowing that life is not built on sudden movements, but on long, gentle processes. DNA does not decide who you must be in any urgent sense. It does not demand perfection or speed. It offers a framework, a starting place, and then allows life to unfold within that space. Much like this moment, where you are allowed to rest, to drift, and to let thoughts pass without effort. Inside your cells, DNA remains carefully protected, coiled and stored in a way that keeps it safe. This protection is not dramatic. It is simply efficient and calm. The cell knows how to care for what it carries, just as your body knows how to support you as you rest. There is wisdom in these quiet systems that operate without conscious thought. As cells divide, DNA is copied with remarkable care. This copying is not hurried. It is slow, deliberate, and precise, ensuring that life continues smoothly. Mistakes are rare, and when they do occur, the cell often notices and gently corrects them. Even here, there is no panic, only steady maintenance. You might find comfort in knowing that life is built on systems that value stability over speed. DNA is not interested in rushing toward an outcome. It simply preserves information, allowing it to be expressed when the time is right. Growth happens gradually, like night turning into morning without anyone needing to watch it happen. Across forests, oceans, and open skies, this same thread continues. It connects whales and birds, grasses and fungi, all through variations of the same quiet code. The differences you see in the world are like different melodies played on the same instrument, each unique, yet all shaped by the same underlying structure. As you rest, you do not need to remember these ideas. They are not here to be memorized. They are here to be felt, gently, like the awareness that you are supported by something larger and older than yourself. DNA is a reminder that life is not chaotic at its core. It is organized, patient, and deeply interconnected. There is a softness in realizing that you are not separate from the living world, but woven into it. The same thread that guides a leaf as it forms in spring once guided the development of your own body. This is not something you need to act on or understand fully. It is simply something that is true. If your thoughts begin to wander, that is perfectly fine. You can let them drift, knowing that this quiet thread continues whether you are paying attention or not. Our DNA does not require observation. It simply continues, moment by moment, generation by generation. In this calm understanding, the world feels less fragmented. Life appears as a long, unbroken flow rather than a series of disconnected moments. You are resting inside that flow now, supported by processes that have been unfolding peacefully for ages. As this chapter slowly draws to a close, you may begin to sense curiosity turning inward toward the shapes and structures that hold this quiet thread in place, waiting patiently to be explored next. You continue gently onward, and your thoughts begin to settle into quieter patterns, as if the mind itself is becoming curious in a softer way. There is nothing you need to picture perfectly, nothing to solve. You are simply allowing an idea to form slowly, like a shape emerging in dim light, calm and unhurried. DNA has a form that is both simple and endlessly graceful. Rather than spreading outward or lying flat, it folds into a delicate spiral, turning gently around itself. You might imagine a ladder that has learned how to move, its sides curving and twisting as if following a quiet rhythm. This shape does not rush. It repeats itself calmly, turn after turn, holding its structure without strain. As you breathe, you can picture this spiral resting inside each cell, compact and patient. It is not stretched tight. It is carefully folded, coiled just enough to fit, like a long ribbon placed neatly inside a small box. This folding is not random. It follows natural rules shaped by chemistry and balance, allowing something very long to exist comfortably within something very small. The familiar image of a ladder is often used because it feels stable and reassuring. Two steady sides run alongside one another, connected by countless gentle rungs. Each rung fits precisely, pairing in a way that feels almost intuitive, like matching shapes that have always belonged together. There is no forcing involved. The structure holds itself. When the ladder twists into a spiral, it gains strength without becoming rigid. This twisting helps protect the information it carries, keeping it safe and accessible. You can think of it as a design that values endurance over display. The spiral allows DNA to be strong, flexible, and compact all at once, qualities that feel calming when you rest with them. This shape has been forming quietly for billions of years. Long before humans described it, long before anyone gave it a name, life had already settled into this elegant solution. The spiral is not a modern invention. It is ancient, shaped by the slow trial of time, refined not by urgency, but by persistence. There is something soothing about the idea that life's instructions are not scattered or chaotic. They are arranged with care, folded into a form that repeats itself patiently. The repetition itself is calming. Turn after turn, rung after rung, the pattern continues, not to impress, but simply because it works. As you imagine this spiral, you might notice how it mirrors patterns found elsewhere in nature. Shells curl inward in quiet spirals. Galaxies turn slowly through space. Even weather systems rotate gently as they move. The spiral seems to be a favored shape in the universe, one that allows movement without haste, structure without rigidity. A DNA's shape allows it to open when needed and close again when finished. Portions of the ladder gently separate so information can be used, then come back together, restoring the calm order. This opening and closing is not dramatic. It happens smoothly, like pages of a book being turned slowly, never tearing, never rushing. Inside your own body, this process unfolds continuously without your awareness. Cells quietly access the instructions they need, guided by the structure of the spiral. There is no moment where everything happens at once. Each step follows the last, measured and deliberate, allowing the system to remain balanced. You do not need to imagine this in detail. Even a vague sense of the spiral is enough. The comfort comes not from precision, but from knowing that life is built on shapes that favor harmony. DNA does not sprawl. It does not tangle itself into knots. It folds and twists in ways that preserve clarity over time. This shape also allows for variation without disruption. Small differences can exist along the ladder without breaking its form. Life can change gently, one rung at a time, without needing to rebuild the entire structure. This ability to change slowly is part of what allows life to endure. As your thoughts drift, you may notice how the idea of a spiral encourages relaxation. There is no sharp edge to follow, no sudden corner. The mind can move along the curve smoothly, without resistance. Even imagining it can slow the pace of thinking, encouraging a softer focus. There is nothing you need to do with this image. You can let it float by, knowing that the shape exists whether you hold it or not. Our DNA continues to twist quietly inside you, maintaining its form without effort, just as your breathing continues without instruction. The spiral also serves as a reminder that complexity does not require noise. Something can be intricate and still be calm. The double helix holds immense amounts of information, yet it does so in a shape that feels almost meditative. Complexity and peace are not opposites here. They coexist naturally. As life unfolds, this shape remains remarkably consistent. From the simplest organisms to the most complex, the same general form appears again and again. The details vary, but the overall structure remains familiar, like a melody repeated with gentle variations. You might find comfort in the idea that beneath all diversity, there is a shared design, a shape that quietly connects all living things. Not through force, but through form. The spiral does not demand attention. It simply exists, supporting life in the background. As this chapter begins to soften toward its end, the spiral remains with you, slowly turning, holding its quiet balance. And as your thoughts continue to drift, you may begin to wonder where this carefully shaped structure rests and how it is kept safe within the small, peaceful spaces of the cell. You rest your attention gently, as if placing it on a shelf, and imagine the smallest rooms of life opening quietly. Inside every living cell, DNA has a home that feels calm and carefully arranged. Nothing rattles or rushes here. The space is contained, warm and protective, like a library after closing time. There is nothing you need to do while you picture this. Your breath moves slowly. Your body settles. The cell holds its contents with patience, and within it, DNA rests without strain, folded and safe, waiting quietly in this gentle beginning, together now softly, always drifting peacefully. Cells are incredibly small, yet they are organized with remarkable care. Each one is wrapped in a thin boundary that keeps the outside world at a comfortable distance. Within that boundary, structures float in quiet cooperation, never colliding, never competing. DNA remains tucked away in a central space, protected from harm. You can imagine it like a cherished book placed on a high shelf, away from spills and noise. The cell knows where everything belongs, and this order creates a sense of deep biological calm that continues steadily without attention while you rest here tonight in silence and slow moments. Inside many cells, a DNA stays within a special compartment that acts like a quiet room. This space separates instructions from daily activity, keeping them undisturbed. It is not isolation, but thoughtful placement. When information is needed, it is accessed gently, then returned to rest. This arrangement prevents confusion and protects continuity. As you imagine this, notice how reassuring boundaries can feel. There is comfort in knowing that important things are held carefully, not exposed, not rushed, simply present, allowing systems to work quietly while you drift further inward now with slow breathing and untroubled thoughts settling softly tonight, together here. DNA is long, far longer than the cell itself, yet it fits without strain. This is possible because it is gently coiled and folded, layered carefully rather than crammed. Folding creates order. It reduces tangles. It allows access without disruption. You might picture long fabric pleated neatly, taking up less space while remaining whole. The cell accomplishes this constantly, without effort or awareness. As you listen, your own thoughts may fold in similar ways, becoming quieter and more contained. There is nothing to manage as this calm structure supports everything around you, inside you, slowly holding steady through night now. Within the cell, many helpers exist, each with a role, each respectful of space. DNA does not float freely among them. It remains set apart, minimizing wear and error. This separation increases reliability over time. Life favors arrangements that last. As generations pass, the same careful storage continues, cell after cell, body after body. You are part of this lineage of organization. The systems supporting you tonight are ancient, refined by patience rather than speed, and they continue working as you rest steadily beneath awareness, with no demand placed upon you as minutes soften, thoughts loosen, and sleep approaches gently. Protection matters at this scale because damage can disrupt continuity. Cells therefore surround DNA with proteins that shield and stabilize it. These companions are not aggressive guards, but quiet supports, maintaining shape and spacing. Together, they create a calm environment where information remains readable. The idea of protection here is not fear-based. It is practical and gentle. As you imagine this care, your nervous system may mirror it, settling into its own protected rhythm. There is nothing you need to watch or control right now as rest deepens, muscles soften, breathing slows, and awareness drifts quietly inward, safely, patiently on. Even when DNA is accessed, the cell remains orderly. Only small sections open at a time, while the rest stays closed and undisturbed. This selective opening preserves stability. It ensures that instructions are shared without chaos. You can think of it like opening a single page rather than scattering a whole book across the floor. Precision here is calming, not tense. It reflects a preference for clarity. As your thoughts wander, they too can open briefly, then return to rest. Nothing important is lost when attention loosens during quiet moments like these, unfolding slowly tonight, without effort, pressure, or demand. At this microscopic level, stillness dominates. Movements occur, but they are measured and purposeful. Nothing jolts, nothing startles. Chemical interactions follow predictable paths, guided by shape and proximity. DNA remains central, steady, unaffected by momentary fluctuations. This consistency allows life to persist through countless cycles. As you rest with this image, you may sense a parallel stillness in your own body, where countless processes continue reliably, asking nothing from you but rest. Your heartbeat, digestion, and cellular repair echo this same quiet order beneath awareness, supporting you gently, steadily through the night as sleep approaches, slowly, kindly, without demand, now. Containment does not mean restriction, it means care. DNA is contained so it can be preserved, copied, and shared accurately. Without this careful housing, information could degrade. Life avoids waste by building systems that protect what matters. As you listen, you might reflect on the value of boundaries in your own life, how quiet limits can create safety. In the cell, containment is kindness. It allows continuity to stretch forward calmly, generation after generation. There is nothing to cross tonight, nothing required beyond gentle presence, while thoughts soften, breathing deepens, and rest settles around you. Quietly, securely, patiently, again. Now, DNA's location within the cell also reduces interference. Daily chemical activity stays mostly separate from stored instructions. This separation minimizes accidental changes. Stability emerges not from rigidity, but from thoughtful design. You might sense how comforting this is, knowing life is built to reduce unnecessary disturbance. As you lie here, your environment mirrors this principle. Lights dim, sounds soften, distractions fade. What remains is a protected space where restoration can occur naturally. The body understands this rhythm and follows it without instruction. As night deepens, cells continue, quietly, steadily, patiently, restoring, balancing, sustaining you gently, safely, through sleep, now, here. In this quiet containment, time behaves differently. Processes unfold without clocks or urgency. DNA remains indifferent to minutes and hours, responding only to need. This timelessness can feel soothing. You are invited to step out of measured time and into biological time, where cycles matter more than moments. As your awareness loosens, you align with these slower rhythms. The cell does not hurry, and neither must you, as rest becomes the only task. There is nothing else to accomplish while this gentle work continues beneath awareness, within you, softly, steadily, carrying life forward, quietly, patiently. Tonight, as sleep deepens, now. Everything about this arrangement favors endurance. DNA's protected place reduces error, preserves clarity, and allows life to persist. This is not fragile design. It is resilient through gentleness. As you rest, you are supported by the same principle. Strength does not always announce itself. Sometimes it appears as quiet consistency. The cell's careful order whispers this truth repeatedly, without sound, without effort, continuing whether you notice or not. You are held within systems that have learned patience over ages of change, carrying knowledge, gently, safely, across time, supporting rest, growth and renewal, now, quietly, always, here, tonight, as you drift. Stillness at this scale invites imagination to slow even further. You may picture shelves upon shelves, each holding coiled strands, each arranged with intention. The cell is not crowded. Space is used wisely. Movement happens only when necessary. This efficiency creates calm. As you listen, your mind can adopt the same economy, releasing extra thoughts, keeping only what is essential and allowing everything else to rest quietly, undisturbed as the night continues. There is nothing to add, nothing to remove, nothing to perfect while rest deepens, breathing steadies, and awareness drifts gently, inward, downward, softly, patiently, safely, towards sleep, now. As this chapter settles, the image of DNA resting within the cell remains softly present. Shelved, protected and ready, it waits without impatience. You do not need to follow it further right now. It will remain there, doing its quiet work. Soon, a curiosity may drift toward what is written along that carefully stored structure, the simple patterns that carry meaning without noise, waiting gently to be explored next. There is no rush to read them, only space to rest beside them. As sleep deepens, thoughts soften, and attention fades into quiet, preparing for symbols, letters, and patterns unfolding slowly ahead. You drift gently onward, and the idea of DNA begins to feel less like a structure and more like a quiet form of language. There is nothing here to decode or memorize. This is not a language meant for urgency or command. It is a language that speaks softly, repeating itself patiently, offering meaning through calm patterns rather than sharp instruction. You do not need to understand it fully. You only need to rest alongside it. Within DNA, information is carried using just 4 chemical letters. They are small, simple, and endlessly repeated. You might imagine them as symbols written in a smooth, even hand, never rushed, never bold. These letters do not shout, they whisper. Over long stretches of time, they form sequences that gently guide how living things grow, repair, and continue. The simplicity of using only 4 letters is not a limitation. It is a quiet strength. These letters always pair in familiar ways, fitting together like pieces that recognize one another. Their pairing follows steady rules, not because they are enforced, but because they naturally belong together. This consistency creates reliability. As the sequence unfolds along the DNA strand, the same combinations appear again and again, forming a rhythm that life has learned to trust. Repetition here is not boring. It is comforting. You can imagine this language like a lullaby written with very few notes. The melody does not change abruptly. It repeats, loops, and gently varies, creating something that feels safe to hear over and over. DNA's language works in much the same way. With just 4 letters, it creates enough variation to build immense diversity, while remaining calm and predictable at its core. There is no punctuation in this language that demands pauses or urgency. Instead, there are natural breaks, gentle signals that say when to begin and when to stop. These signals are quiet and precise. They allow the cell to read only what it needs, when it needs it, and then return the rest to stillness. Nothing is read all at once. Nothing is rushed. As you rest with this idea, you might notice how reassuring it is that life does not rely on complexity to function. 4 letters, arranged patiently, are enough. This simplicity reduces confusion and error. It allows life to continue smoothly, even as environments change slowly over time. The language of DNA is not rewritten every moment. It remains stable, enduring, and calm. This language does not describe outcomes in detail. It offers instructions in a flexible way, leaving room for the environment to participate. The same sequence can lead to slightly different expressions depending on context. This openness allows life to adapt without losing its foundation. It is a language that suggests rather than dictates. When cells read this language, they do so carefully. Only small sections are read at a time, as needed. The rest remains quiet, are like unread pages waiting patiently on a shelf. This selective reading conserves energy and preserves order. It also means that much of the information remains undisturbed, resting calmly until called upon. You do not need to imagine the letters themselves. Even the idea of them is enough. What matters is the sense of calm repetition, the steady flow of symbols arranged in long, unbroken sequences. The mind can rest in this repetition, much like it rests in the sound of waves or steady rain. Patterns soothe when they are predictable and gentle. These 4 letters are shared across all known life. From the smallest bacteria to the largest mammals, the same alphabet appears again and again. This shared language connects all living things at a fundamental level. Differences arise not from new letters, but from new arrangements. The alphabet remains constant, while the stories it tells vary quietly. As you breathe slowly, you may sense how this mirrors communication in your own body. Messages are sent without words, through rhythms and signals that repeat reliably. Heartbeats, breaths, and neural signals all rely on patterns rather than explanations. DNA's language fits into this broader theme of life, favoring rhythm over complexity. There is no expectation that you remember any of this. The language of DNA does not require witnesses. It continues whether or not it is understood. You are free to let the details fade, keeping only the feeling of calm order. Nothing important is lost when attention softens. In this language, mistakes are uncommon, but when they occur, they are often noticed and corrected. This adds another layer of reassurance. The system does not assume perfection. It allows for small errors and has ways to address them gently. This flexibility contributes to resilience over long spans of time. The letters themselves are not meaningful in isolation. It is their order that matters. Meaning emerges gradually over long sequences, much like meaning in a sentence unfolds over time. There is no need to rush to the end. Each part plays its role quietly, contributing to the whole. You might imagine these sequences stretching endlessly, like a calm path winding through a landscape. There is no sudden turn, no abrupt ending. The path continues, sometimes repeating familiar views, sometimes introducing subtle variations. Walking such a path does not require attention to every step. You can move along it gently, letting your awareness drift. This language is read the same way every time, following the same rules, honoring the same pairings. This consistency allows life to rely on it completely. It does not change its grammar unexpectedly. It does not introduce surprises. Over billions of years, this reliability has allowed life to build complexity slowly, layer by layer. As the chapter unfolds, the language of DNA feels less like information and more like presence. It is always there, quietly shaping what is possible without demanding notice. You are supported by this language right now, even as you rest, even as your thoughts wander. The repetition of 4 letters invites the mind to slow down. There is nothing excessive here, nothing extra. Just enough to sustain life, written in a form that values calm over speed. This simplicity can be felt even without understanding. As your attention continues to soften, you may begin to sense curiosity shifting gently toward how these letters are organized into longer messages, how they form words of instruction that guide specific actions, waiting quietly to be explored next, without hurry, without pressure, as rest deepens and thought drifts onward. You continue drifting through this quiet landscape of living processes, and your thoughts slow even further as the idea of copying comes gently into view. This is not copying in a hurried sense. There is no pressure to be fast. DNA copies itself in a way that feels calm, deliberate, and deeply considerate, as though it understands that what lasts is built slowly. There is nothing you need to follow closely here. You can simply rest beside the rhythm of careful repetition. When a cell prepares to divide, it does not rush forward blindly. It first makes sure that the instructions it carries are ready to be shared. DNA begins this process by gently opening, like a book being read with care rather than urgency. The spiral loosens just enough to allow its information to be seen, while the rest remains protected and undisturbed. Nothing is torn apart, nothing is forced. As the strands separate, each side serves as a quiet guide. Rather than guessing what should come next, The cell follows rules that have been reliable for ages. Matching pieces drift into place naturally, guided by shape and chemistry rather than command. This matching happens step by step, never all at once. Precision here is unhurried, and that unhurried pace is what keeps errors rare. You might imagine this like copying a handwritten letter by candlelight. Each word is traced carefully, with attention and patience. The goal is not speed, but accuracy. DNA follows this same philosophy. It takes the time it needs because time is available. Cells do not hurry through this process unless circumstances demand it, and even then, the copying remains remarkably calm. Throughout this process, there are quiet helpers present. These molecular companions guide the work, keeping strands aligned and ensuring that matching remains correct. They do not shout instructions. They simply assist, gently nudging pieces into place. Their presence reduces strain and keeps the work smooth. This collaboration reflects a system designed for steadiness rather than drama. Mistakes, while possible, are uncommon. When they do happen, the cell often notices almost immediately. Corrections are made gently, without alarm, and there is no punishment for small errors, only adjustment. This built-in ability to check and repair adds another layer of reassurance. Life does not assume perfection. It prepares for care. As you listen, you might feel a quiet sense of relief in knowing that even at this deep level, systems are forgiving. Accuracy matters, but stress does not. The process values consistency over speed, patience over haste. This approach has allowed life to continue reliably across countless generations, adapting slowly without losing its foundation. The copying continues along the length of the DNA, moving steadily like a calm traveler following a familiar path. There is no need to rush to the end. Each segment is completed before the next begins. This measured pace ensures clarity. Nothing is skipped, nothing is overlooked. The work unfolds with a rhythm that feels almost meditative. You are supported by this process right now. In your own body, cells are copying DNA quietly, replacing old cells with new ones, maintaining tissues without asking for your attention. This renewal happens as you rest, as you breathe, as your thoughts wander freely. There is nothing you need to supervise. The work is already underway. Accuracy in copying is essential because it preserves continuity. The information carried forward remains recognizable, familiar, and functional. This allows life to build upon what already exists, rather than starting over. The calm reliability of replication is one reason complexity can arise slowly, layer by layer without collapse. Even when conditions change, the copying process adapts gently. Temperature shifts, nutrient availability, and other factors can influence the pace, but not the care. The system adjusts without panic. It continues doing what it has learned to do best, preserving information with quiet confidence. You might notice how comforting this idea feels. Life is not fragile in the way it sometimes appears. It is supported by processes that prioritize accuracy and patience. DNA replication does not rely on luck alone. It relies on structure, cooperation, and time. As the new copy forms, it remains closely aligned with the original, ensuring consistency. Only when the process is complete do the two strands separate fully, each now capable of guiding future copying. This moment is not dramatic. It is simply a transition, a continuation of the same calm cycle. This cycle repeats endlessly, cell after cell, generation after generation. It has been repeating for billions of years, quietly, reliably, without applause. You are part of this long continuity, resting within it now. Your body trusts these processes completely, allowing you to sleep while they continue. There is nothing you need to do to assist this work. Your role right now is simply to rest. The accuracy you rely on has already been built into the system. You can let go, knowing that care and precision are ongoing, even as consciousness softens. As this chapter begins to settle, the idea of copying fades into the background, leaving behind a feeling of steadiness. The patient accuracy of DNA replication continues unseen, and with it comes a quiet invitation to wonder how small variations introduced gently over time can lead to change without disruption, waiting calmly to unfold in the chapters ahead. You rest within the quiet continuity of life, and the idea of change arrives softly, without disturbance. Change here is not sudden or alarming. It does not rush in or demand attention. It unfolds slowly, almost imperceptibly, like a season shifting while you sleep. There is nothing you need to brace for, nothing you need to follow closely. This kind of change is patient, and it has always been part of life's gentle rhythm. Within DNA, small variations sometimes appear. They do not arrive with drama. They are subtle, often so small they go unnoticed. These variations can happen as DNA is copied, despite the great care taken in that process. They are not mistakes in the way we usually think of errors. They are natural possibilities, tiny differences that arise simply because life continues over long stretches of time. Most of these changes have little effect. They do not disrupt the calm flow of life. Many remain silent, never influencing how a living thing grows or functions. Others may slightly alter how a single instruction is carried out. These changes are rarely harmful, and they are often neutral, blending quietly into the background. Life does not react to them with fear. It absorbs them calmly. You might imagine these variations like slight changes in handwriting over years of writing the same letter. The meaning remains clear. The words remain readable. Only the smallest details shift. DNA carries information forward in much the same way, allowing small differences without losing its overall message. Over time, these gentle variations become part of a larger pattern. When environments change slowly, some variations may fit a little better than others. This fitting is not a competition. It is more like finding a comfortable place to rest. Variations that suit the surroundings tend to remain, while others simply fade away without consequence. There is no urgency in this process. It unfolds across many generations. Time stretches wide here. Generations pass quietly, one into the next, each carrying forward slightly altered instructions. These changes are so gradual that they cannot be felt in a single lifetime. They require patience to notice, and patience is something life has in abundance. You can rest in this long view, knowing that nothing important happens all at once. Change, in this context, is not a force pushing life forward. It is a gentle drift. Life remains remarkably stable, even as it changes. The foundation stays intact while small details adjust. This balance between stability and variation allows life to persist without losing itself. It is a reassuring design. As you breathe slowly, you may sense how this mirrors your own experience. You change over time too, in ways that are often subtle. growth does not usually announce itself. It happens quietly, day by day, shaped by countless small influences. DNA follows the same pattern, adjusting gently without disrupting the whole. These variations become meaningful only when viewed across vast spans of time. A single change may seem insignificant, but accumulated over many generations, they can lead to noticeable differences. Even then, the process remains slow and steady. Life does not leap, it walks patiently. There is no need to think of these changes as improvements or declines. They are simply responses, shaped by conditions rather than goals. DNA does not plan ahead. It does not anticipate outcomes. It offers possibilities, and the world quietly responds. This lack of intention removes pressure from the process. There is no right direction, only continuity. You are part of this ongoing flow. The DNA you carry includes variations that arose long before you were born. They arrived without ceremony, passed down quietly through countless lives. They are part of what makes you uniquely yourself, while still deeply connected to all life around you. This individuality does not separate you. It weaves you more intricately into the whole. As your thoughts soften, you might feel comfort in knowing that change does not need to be resisted. At the deepest biological level, change is normal, gentle, and usually harmless. Life has learned how to accommodate it without losing balance. This wisdom is built into you. Even when variations do influence traits or behaviors, their effects are often subtle. They do not dictate destiny. Environment, experience, and chance all play roles alongside DNA. This shared influence creates flexibility rather than rigidity. Life remains open-ended, responsive rather than fixed. The long pace of change also allows time for adjustment. Nothing is forced suddenly. Systems have space to adapt gradually. This prevents collapse and supports resilience. You can sense this patience as you rest, knowing that life values endurance over speed. There is nothing you need to watch for or worry about here. These changes continue whether or not they are noticed. They do not require supervision. You can let the idea of variation drift by like a cloud moving slowly across the sky, changing shape without urgency. As night deepens, the thought of gentle change becomes less about movement and more about continuity. Life remains familiar, even as it slowly transforms. DNA carries both constancy and variation together, holding them in quiet balance. You may begin to feel curiosity easing toward how these small changes are shared between generations, how they pass from one life to the next without hurry, waiting calmly to be explored further as rest continues to settle. And thought drifts onward into the long, patient story ahead. You rest gently within the slow movement of time, and the idea of inheritance arrives not as a headline, but as a hush. It does not announce itself, it does not demand emotion, it simply exists, flowing quietly from one life into another, like a small flame passed carefully from hand to hand. There is nothing you need to hold onto here. You are only invited to sit beside this continuity and let it move at its own pace. DNA travels across generations in the most unassuming way. When life begins anew, the instructions carried forward are not created from nothing. They are shared. Portions come from one parent, portions from another, woven together into a new arrangement that has never existed before. This passing is not dramatic. It happens silently, before awareness, guided by processes refined over immense spans of time. You might imagine this gift not as an object, but as a pattern that has been repeated countless times, each repetition slightly different yet familiar. The DNA you carry once rested in many bodies before yours. It moved through them quietly, shaping growth, repair, and rhythm, then continued onward without ceremony. This movement does not pause to reflect. It simply continues. Inheritance does not deliver exact copies. It offers variation within continuity. The information passed forward is carefully divided and reshuffled, ensuring that each new life carries a unique combination. This blending does not erase the past. It layers it gently, allowing traits to echo rather than repeat. The result is familiarity without duplication. As you breathe slowly, you may sense how this feels less like ownership and more like stewardship. DNA is not possessed by any one generation. It is borrowed briefly, expressed for a time, then passed on. This perspective softens the idea of individuality. You are distinct, yet deeply connected, shaped by countless lives that came before without being defined by them. Some inherited traits are visible, others subtle. Many remain unnoticed, influencing processes beneath awareness. Height, hair texture, metabolism, immune responses, and countless other features are guided quietly by inherited instructions. None of these arrive with expectation. They unfold naturally, interacting with environment and experience over time. Inheritance also carries resilience. Over generations, DNA preserves information that has allowed life to survive changing conditions. This preservation is not rigid. It allows room for adaptation, for gentle shifts that support continuity. The balance between holding and changing is what makes inheritance effective rather than fragile. There is no need to think of inheritance as destiny. The information passed forward provides tendencies, not certainties. Environment, nutrition, learning, and chance all participate. DNA offers a starting place, not a final script. This openness creates space for individuality to emerge without breaking connection to the past. As you lie here, you might reflect on how little effort is required for this gift to move forward. No conscious decision is needed. No instruction is given. Life simply shares what it has, trusting the future to shape it further. This trust has endured across millions of generations. Inheritance does not carry memories or experiences. It does not transmit stories or emotions. It passes along structures and possibilities, leaving each life free to form its own meaning. This separation is gentle. It allows continuity without burden. You are not required to carry the weight of what came before. Even traits that seem deeply personal are part of this quiet exchange. They arrived without request, shaped gradually by countless interactions. There is something humbling in knowing that so much of what supports you arrived long before you were aware of it. This support does not ask for recognition. In many ways, inheritance is invisible unless you pause to consider it. It operates beneath daily awareness, much like breathing or heartbeat. You can go through life without noticing it at all, and it will continue faithfully. This invisibility is part of its gentleness. Over time, inheritance weaves populations together. Shared traits reveal common ancestry, linking families, communities, and species. These links are not boundaries. They are reminders of shared origins. Differences emerge, but they do so within a larger framework of similarity. As generations pass, some traits become more common, others fade. This change is slow and unforced. No single life directs it. It emerges from countless small contributions, each one insignificant on its own, yet meaningful together. Inheritance is collective without being conscious. You may notice how calming it feels to release the idea of control here. Life does not require management at this scale. It moves forward through quiet sharing, guided by systems that have learned patience. You are part of this movement, whether you think about it or not. There is nothing you need to do to honor inheritance. It does not require gratitude or action. It continues regardless. Your role tonight is simply to rest, allowing these thoughts to drift like soft echoes, fading in and out without needing resolution. As night deepens, the idea of inheritance becomes less about the past and more about flow. Information moves forward, uninterrupted, adapting gently as it goes. You are a moment within this flow, not its beginning or end. The gift you carry will one day move on, just as it arrived. This is not something to hurry or delay. It will happen in its own time, guided by the same calm processes that have always existed. There is peace in this inevitability. As this chapter settles, you may feel curiosity drifting toward how shared inheritance connects all living things. How these quiet gifts extend beyond families into wider patterns of life, waiting softly to be explored next, without urgency, as rest continues to deepen and thoughts fade gently onward. You continue resting within this widening view of life, and the sense of separation begins to soften. What once seemed distinct now feels gently connected, as though many paths quietly lead back to the same place. There is no need to compare or measure. This chapter is simply about noticing how deeply related life truly is, even when it appears different on the surface. Across the living world, DNA follows familiar patterns. The same quiet language appears again and again, whether inside a towering tree, a drifting bacterium, or the body you rest in now. The letters are arranged differently, the sequences vary, but the underlying structure remains recognizably the same. This consistency creates a quiet kinship that stretches far beyond what the eye can see. Plants, animals, fungi, and microbes all rely on this shared foundation. They grow in different ways, move at different speeds, and occupy different spaces. Yet the instructions guiding them come from the same basic source. Life does not reinvent itself from scratch. It adapts gently, using variations on a familiar theme. You might imagine DNA as a melody played across many instruments. The sound changes, the tone shifts, but the notes belong to the same scale. A bird's song, a leaf's slow unfurling, and a cell's quiet division are all expressions of this shared pattern, translated into different forms. None of them need to compete to be valid. They simply exist. At the smallest scale, even the simplest organisms share similarities with the most complex ones. Bacteria, among the oldest forms of life, use DNA in ways that echo processes found in larger beings. The core instructions for building proteins, maintaining structure, and responding to the environment are remarkably conserved. This preservation reflects a design that works, one refined slowly rather than replaced. As you breathe, you might feel how calming it is to recognize that complexity grows from simplicity. Life does not rely on countless unrelated systems. It builds diversity by modifying what already functions well. This approach reduces chaos and increases stability, allowing ecosystems to flourish without constant reinvention. The similarities extend beyond structure into timing and rhythm. Many organisms follow comparable cycles of growth, repair, and rest, guided by shared genetic signals. Day and night influence plants and animals alike. Seasonal changes ripple through forests, oceans, and even microscopic communities. These synchronized responses reveal a shared sensitivity to the world. You do not need to hold these connections clearly. Even a faint sense of them is enough. The idea that life listens to the same underlying cues can feel deeply reassuring. It suggests that the world is not fragmented, but responsive and cohesive, shaped by patterns that repeat gently across scale and time. Differences between species often draw attention, yet similarities quietly outweigh them. At the molecular level, much of life looks remarkably alike. Proteins that help cells function are often built from similar sequences, modified only slightly to suit different needs. This reuse of effective designs allows life to expand without losing coherence. As life diversified, it did so gradually. New forms emerged not through sudden leaps, but through slow accumulation of small changes. Each new branch remained connected to the trunk. This continuity means that even the most distant species share traces of a common past, written softly into their DNA. You might imagine this shared ancestry like a vast family tree, its branches spreading wide while its roots remain intertwined. No branch exists alone. Each is supported by the same deep foundation. This image does not demand emotion. It simply offers perspective, a reminder that separation is often less complete than it appears. Microbes, though invisible to the naked eye, participate fully in this shared pattern. They interact with larger organisms constantly, shaping environments and supporting life in quiet ways. Inside your own body, countless microbes coexist with you, their DNA distinct yet compatible, forming partnerships refined over time. This cooperation is not planned. It emerges naturally from shared chemistry and mutual influence. DNA allows organisms to recognize, respond, and adapt to one another. These interactions create balance rather than dominance, stability rather than conflict. Life thrives through connection more than competition. As you rest, you may feel a gentle easing of boundaries. The idea of kinship does not require closeness or familiarity. It exists simply because life follows shared rules. Whether two organisms ever meet is less important than the fact that they operate within the same quiet framework. The more scientists explore DNA, the more these similarities become apparent. Unexpected connections appear between species once thought unrelated. These discoveries do not disrupt understanding. They deepen it, revealing how unified life truly is beneath its surface variety. There is comfort in knowing that life favors continuity. New forms arise, but they do so without discarding what came before. This layering of change creates resilience. It allows ecosystems to recover, adapt, and persist, even as conditions shift slowly over time. You are part of this layered story. Your DNA reflects not only your immediate ancestry, but traces of ancient life forms that shaped the long path to the present. These traces do not crowd your identity. They support it quietly, like deep roots supporting a tree without being seen. Unity does not erase individuality. Each organism expresses shared patterns in its own way. DNA provides a framework, not a uniform outcome. This balance allows life to be both connected and diverse, stable and responsive, familiar and new. As your thoughts drift, you may sense how this perspective reduces isolation. Even in stillness, You are part of a vast network of living processes, all following similar rhythms. This belonging does not require effort or awareness. It exists whether or not it is noticed. The pace of this realization remains slow. There is no need to arrive at a conclusion. You can simply rest within the idea that life shares more than it divides. Patterns repeat quietly, linking forests, oceans, and cells into a single unfolding process. As this chapter begins to settle, the sense of shared design lingers softly. Beneath all diversity lies a common thread, inviting curiosity toward how these patterns stretch across deep time, carrying memory and change together, waiting gently to be explored next. You settle into a deeper stillness now, and the idea of time stretches gently around you. This chapter does not rush forward. It looks far back, not with urgency, but with patience. Evolution appears here not as a struggle or a contest, but as a slow remembering, carried quietly within DNA. There is nothing you need to follow closely. You are simply invited to rest beside the long view of life. DNA holds memory without awareness. It does not recall events or experiences, yet it preserves the results of countless moments across immense spans of time. Each generation adds a small note to this record, then passes it along. Over millions of years, these notes accumulate, forming a quiet archive of what has worked, what has endured, and what has gently faded away. Evolution, in this sense, is not about striving toward a goal. It has no destination in mind. It unfolds because life continues. DNA carries forward variations, and environments respond without intention. Some patterns remain because they fit well enough to persist. Others disappear simply because they no longer arise. There is no judgment here, only continuity. You might imagine DNA as a long shoreline shaped by countless gentle waves. No single wave defines the coast. Each one leaves a subtle mark, and over time, a form emerges. Evolution works in this same patient way. Changes are small, cumulative, and unhurried. The result is not perfection, but resilience. Time behaves differently at this scale. Minutes and years lose their meaning. What matters, instead, are generations, long sequences of life unfolding one after another. DNA moves through these generations steadily, carrying information forward without pausing to reflect. This movement feels calm because it is indifferent to speed. There is comfort in knowing that evolution does not rush. Life is not pressured to change quickly. It adjusts slowly, allowing stability to remain even as forms shift. This slow pace reduces disruption. It allows ecosystems to adapt without collapse, maintaining balance across long stretches of time. DNA's role in this process is quiet and consistent. It does not evaluate success or failure. It simply preserves information and allows variation. The environment, in turn, gently influences which variations continue. This interaction is subtle, unfolding over many lifetimes rather than moments. As you breathe, you might sense how this long memory supports life rather than burdens it. DNA does not carry trauma or regret. It carries structure and possibility. The past influences the present without overwhelming it. Each new life begins with a foundation, not a weight. Evolution does not erase what came before. It builds upon it. Ancient structures remain embedded within modern forms, repurposed rather than discarded. Bones, cells, and biochemical pathways reflect this layering. DNA records these layers quietly, preserving history within function. Even traits that seem newly evolved often trace back to older patterns. The same genetic tools are reused, combined, and adjusted. This reuse conserves energy and maintains coherence. Life prefers adaptation over reinvention. This preference creates continuity that feels steady and reassuring. You are part of this long memory. Your DNA carries traces of environments that no longer exist, of lives lived under different skies and climates. These traces do not pull you backward. They simply exist, silent reminders of endurance. You are supported by solutions refined over immense time. Evolution does not move in straight lines. It wanders gently, responding to circumstances rather than pursuing progress. This wandering allows flexibility. When conditions change, life adjusts gradually rather than abruptly. DNA supports this adaptability by offering variation without abandoning structure. As you rest, you may notice how this perspective eases the sense of urgency that often surrounds change. At the deepest level, life expects time. It allows room for adjustment. It trusts that continuity will emerge without force. The long memory held within DNA also connects all life through shared history. Common patterns reveal ancient relationships, linking distant species through traces of past adaptations. These links are not declarations. They are quiet signatures, written softly into genetic material. There is no moment when evolution pauses to assess itself. It continues as long as life continues. DNA remains its record keeper, not because it intends to remember, but because memory emerges naturally through preservation. This unintentional memory is what gives evolution its calm character. Even extinction, when it occurs, is not framed here as a failure. It is part of the ongoing flow. Some patterns end because conditions no longer support them. Others continue because they remain compatible. DNA records both persistence and disappearance without preference. You may feel how this understanding softens the idea of competition. While life interacts, it does so more through coexistence than conflict. Many forms thrive together, shaping environments collaboratively. Evolution reflects these relationships rather than opposing forces. As the night deepens, the vastness of evolutionary time becomes less abstract and more soothing. It suggests that nothing important happens suddenly. Life unfolds gradually, supported by memory rather than urgency. DNA carries this memory quietly, without comment. There is nothing you need to remember from this chapter. The details are not meant to stay. The feeling is enough, a sense of patience, of deep time moving gently forward, can settle into you as rest deepens. Evolution continues even as you sleep, not in dramatic leaps, but in subtle preservation. DNA remains attentive without awareness, recording what lasts simply by allowing it to continue. This process does not require observation. As this chapter begins to fade, the idea of long memory lingers softly. DNA holds the past without clinging to it, offering a foundation upon which new expressions quietly arise, inviting curiosity toward how this memory shapes the present moment, waiting calmly to be explored next. You continue resting within the quiet systems that support life, and now your attention drifts toward care rather than creation. Nothing here is broken. Nothing is failing. This chapter is about maintenance, the calm tending that happens continuously without urgency or alarm. There is nothing you need to fix or follow, and you are simply invited to notice how gently life looks after itself. DNA exists in a living world, and living worlds are always in motion. Molecules shift, temperatures change, and cells go about their work. In this movement, tiny disruptions can occur. These are not signs of weakness. They are natural consequences of activity. Life does not respond to them with panic. Instead, it relies on quiet systems designed to notice and restore balance. Within the cell, DNA is constantly watched over by gentle caretakers. These caretakers are not conscious, yet they are precise. They move along the strands, sensing shape and structure, noticing when something feels slightly out of place. Their work is subtle, like a librarian straightening a page that has folded at the corner, restoring order without drawing attention. Most of the time, its DNA remains unchanged. The care it receives prevents disruption before it becomes noticeable. This ongoing attention means that many potential errors are addressed almost as soon as they appear. There is no dramatic moment. Correction happens quietly, and the system returns to its steady rhythm. You might imagine this process like routine care in a well-kept home. Small adjustments are made regularly, so larger problems never arise. A hinge is tightened. A surface is cleaned. Nothing announces itself as an emergency. The home remains comfortable because it is tended gently and often. DNA repair works in much the same way. When a small irregularity appears, specialized molecules recognize the difference between what is expected and what is present. They remove what does not belong and restore the original pattern. This process values accuracy, but it is not rushed. It takes the time it needs to be done well. There is comfort in knowing that life anticipates imperfection. It does not assume flawless conditions. Instead, it builds systems that can respond calmly when minor disruptions occur. This expectation of variation creates resilience. Life remains stable, not because nothing ever changes, but because change is addressed gently. As you breathe slowly, you may notice how reassuring this feels. At the deepest level, life is not fragile. It is supported by layers of care that operate quietly without demanding awareness. Your body trusts these systems completely, allowing you to rest while they continue their work. DNA repair is selective. It does not rewrite entire sequences when only a small correction is needed. This efficiency preserves energy and reduces disturbance. Only the affected section is adjusted, while the rest remains undisturbed. The system favors minimal intervention, maintaining calm throughout the process. Even when damage occurs from environmental factors, such as light or chemical exposure, repair mechanisms respond with steadiness. They do not hurry. They assess, correct, and move on. This measured response prevents cascading problems and preserves continuity. You do not need to imagine these processes in detail. Even a general sense of quiet care is enough. The idea that life includes maintenance as a natural function can ease the mind. Nothing is expected to remain untouched forever. What matters is the presence of systems that restore balance. These repair processes operate constantly across countless cells in every moment of your life. They ask nothing from you. They do not require focus or intention. They simply continue, sustaining stability beneath awareness. This reliability allows you to sleep without concern. Occasionally, repairs are not perfect. When that happens, the result is usually minor. Many changes remain neutral, blending into the background without effect. Life tolerates small imperfections. It does not demand absolute precision at every moment. This tolerance contributes to flexibility and endurance. The presence of repair also allows DNA to remain useful over time. Without it, information would degrade quickly. With it, instructions remain clear across generations. This preservation supports continuity, allowing life to persist without losing coherence. You might reflect on how similar this is to care in your own life. Rest, nourishment, and gentle routines maintain balance. They prevent exhaustion before it becomes overwhelming. DNA repair reflects the same principle. Maintenance matters more than reaction. As your thoughts drift, you may feel a quiet sense of trust emerging. Life has prepared for small disruptions. It does not rely on perfection. It relies on care. This care operates whether or not it is noticed, supporting you continuously. The imagery here remains soft. There are no alarms, no urgent interventions, only steady attention and gentle correction. This atmosphere of calm maintenance encourages relaxation. There is nothing to brace for, nothing to fix. Even aging reflects this balance. Repair continues throughout life, adjusting gradually as conditions change. While some processes slow over time, care never disappears entirely. Life remains attentive to itself, adapting gently rather than collapsing suddenly. As night deepens, the idea of repair fades into the background, leaving behind a sense of reassurance. Systems are in place. Balance is maintained. You are supported by quiet caretakers working beyond awareness. There is nothing you need to do to assist them. Your role is simply to rest, allowing these processes to continue uninterrupted. The body understands this rhythm and follows it naturally. As this chapter softens toward its close, the feeling of gentle maintenance lingers. DNA remains cared for, tended patiently, and ready to continue its quiet work, inviting curiosity toward how these systems interact with daily rhythms of growth and activity, waiting calmly to be explored next. You remain resting within the gentle continuity of life. And now, your attention settles closer to home, into the quiet rhythms of your own body. Nothing here needs monitoring. Nothing needs instruction. The body moves through its cycles with a calm intelligence that long predates conscious thought. DNA participates in these rhythms quietly, supporting growth, repair, and balance in ways that feel more like breathing than decision. From the moment life begins, DNA guides the slow unfolding of form. Cells divide, specialize, and arrange themselves with patience. This process does not hurry. It follows signals that rise and fall like tides, responding to timing rather than urgency. Growth happens when conditions allow it, then pauses when rest is needed. This rhythm continues throughout life, adapting gently as the body changes. Even now, as you lie still, countless cells are renewing themselves. Old cells are replaced. Worn components are recycled. DNA provides the instructions for this renewal without demanding attention. The body does not ask you to supervise these changes. It trusts the patterns that have been refined over time. Daily rhythms shape how DNA is expressed. Certain instructions are read more actively during waking hours, while others become more prominent during rest. Light, darkness, movement, and stillness all influence these patterns. The body listens to its environment and responds quietly, adjusting internal processes to match the time of day. You might imagine DNA as a score for a piece of music that is played differently depending on the hour. The notes remain the same, but the tempo shifts. In the morning, activity increases. At night, everything softens. The melody remains recognizable, but its expression changes gently without disruption. Repair often becomes more active during rest. As muscles relax and breathing slows, the body redirects energy inward. DNA supports this shift by guiding repair processes that restore tissues and maintain balance. This is one reason sleep feels so deeply restorative. It aligns with the body's natural rhythms rather than interrupting them. There is no switch that suddenly turns these processes on or off. Transitions are gradual. The body eases into rest just as it eases into activity. DNA responds to this gradual change, allowing systems to adjust smoothly. This prevents strain and supports long-term stability. Throughout the day, the body experiences small stresses. Movement, digestion, and interaction with the environment all create gentle demands. DNA helps coordinate responses to these demands, ensuring that balance is maintained. When stress subsides, the body returns to equilibrium without needing instruction. You can trust this process. Long before you were aware of it, your body learned how to manage cycles of effort and rest. DNA carries this knowledge forward, preserving patterns that support endurance rather than exhaustion. Life favors rhythms that can be sustained. Growth does not stop with childhood. Even in adulthood, tissues continue to renew. Skin cells replace themselves. Blood cells circulate and are replenished. DNA remains involved in every cycle, ensuring continuity without haste. These processes are so familiar that they often go unnoticed. Hormones rise and fall in gentle waves, influencing energy, mood, and repair. DNA interacts with these signals, now adjusting activity levels across different systems. This coordination allows the body to respond as a whole rather than as isolated parts. The result is harmony rather than conflict. As you breathe slowly, you may feel how naturally your body settles into rest. This is not something you force. It is something you allow. DNA supports this allowance by reducing activity in systems that are not needed right now, conserving energy for maintenance and renewal. Even healing follows rhythm. After injury or illness, the body does not rush toward recovery. It progresses through stages, each building upon the last. DNA guides these stages patiently, allowing tissues to rebuild at a pace that supports stability. There is wisdom in this patience. Rapid change can destabilize systems. Gradual change preserves coherence. New DNA reflects this understanding, favoring slow adjustments over sudden shifts. This approach has supported life across countless generations. Circadian rhythms, shaped by light and darkness, influence how DNA is read throughout the day. Certain genes become more active at night, supporting repair and immune function. Others quiet down, reducing unnecessary activity. This ebb and flow creates balance. You do not need to remember these details. The body remembers them for you. DNA carries the patterns forward, ensuring that each cycle unfolds reliably. Your role is simply to rest within this rhythm, allowing it to continue uninterrupted. Repetition is central here. The same cycles repeat day after day, year after year. This repetition is not monotony. It is stability. The body relies on predictable rhythms to maintain health. DNA preserves these rhythms by responding consistently to familiar signals. As life progresses, rhythms may shift slightly. Sleep patterns change. Recovery takes longer. DNA adapts gently, adjusting expression without abandoning structure. This adaptability allows the body to age gradually rather than abruptly. Even at rest, the body remains active in quiet ways. Breathing continues. The heart maintains its steady pace. DNA supports these essential functions without interruption. There is comfort in knowing that rest does not mean inactivity. It means focused care. You may notice how this understanding encourages trust. The body is not fragile. It is responsive. DNA provides continuity across change, ensuring that cycles remain intact even as circumstances evolve. There is nothing you need to correct or optimize right now. The rhythms that support you are already in motion. They will continue whether or not you are aware of them. You can let go, knowing that care is ongoing. As this chapter draws towards stillness, the sense of rhythm remains. DYNA moves with the body, responding to cycles of light and dark, effort and rest. These patterns do not ask for attention. They simply continue. You may begin to feel curiosity drifting toward how these rhythms are interpreted at the smallest level, how instructions are selected and read moment by moment, waiting quietly to be explored next as your thoughts soften and rest deepens, carrying you gently onward. You remain in a place of quiet attention, where curiosity feels soft rather than sharp. In this chapter, discovery itself becomes gentle. There is no sense of intrusion, no bright lights or hurried hands. But the act of reading DNA is not imagined as opening something forcefully, but as listening closely, with patience and respect, allowing information to reveal itself without being disturbed. When humans began to study DNA more closely, the process unfolded slowly. It did not begin with certainty. It began with careful observation, with noticing patterns that were already there. Scientists learned to recognize shapes, sequences, and repetitions, much like learning to follow the flow of a familiar language spoken quietly in another room. The goal was never to wake DNA from its rest, but to understand it without interrupting its rhythm. Reading DNA does not mean changing it. Most of the time, it simply means observing how it is arranged. Tiny samples are taken, copied gently, and examined with care. This copying allows the original DNA to remain undisturbed, continuing its work within the cell. The information is shared without being taken away. This approach reflects respect rather than control. You might imagine this like reading a reflection on still water rather than touching the surface. The image can be seen clearly without disturbing the calm below. DNA offers its patterns in the same way. With the right tools and patience, information becomes visible without altering the source. Modern methods focus on clarity rather than speed. Sequences are read slowly, checked repeatedly, and compared for consistency. This repetition reduces error and builds confidence. There is no rush to finish. Understanding grows gradually, like dawn light spreading across a quiet landscape. The act of reading DNA has revealed connections that were previously hidden. Shared patterns appear between individuals, families, and species. These discoveries are not loud. They do not announce conclusions. They simply show how closely related life truly is, offering insight without disruption. Importantly, reading DNA often involves working with fragments rather than entire sequences. Small pieces are examined, then reassembled conceptually. This reduces strain on the original material. It also mirrors how the body itself works, accessing only what is needed at a given moment. There is care taken to avoid interference. Conditions are controlled to preserve stability. Temperature, light, and chemical balance are maintained gently. These precautions ensure that DNA remains intact and reliable. The process values preservation over manipulation. You may notice how this approach aligns with the broader theme of patience running through life. Even in study, DNA responds best to calm conditions. Harsh treatment introduces error. Gentle handling preserves clarity. This principle applies whether one is observing cells or simply resting with a thought. Much of what has been learned comes not from forcing answers, but from allowing patterns to emerge. By comparing sequences across time and place, relationships become visible. Similarities and differences reveal themselves naturally without needing to be imposed. Reading DNA has also deepened understanding of health and variation. Patterns associated with certain conditions can be identified, not as judgments, but as information. This knowledge allows for prevention and care rather than alarm. The focus remains on support, not blame. You do not need to imagine machines or laboratories here. Those details are less important than the attitude behind the work. The attitude is one of listening. DNA is approached as something meaningful and delicate, not as a resource to be exploited. In many cases, reading DNA involves working with copies created specifically for study. These copies carry the same information without risking the original. This redundancy reflects the value placed on accuracy and preservation. Life's instructions are treated with care. As you rest, you may sense how this careful observation mirrors mindfulness. Attention is placed gently, without tension. Nothing is forced to reveal itself. Understanding arises when conditions are right. This parallels how sleep arrives when the body feels safe and unhurried. Discoveries gained from reading DNA often raise new questions rather than closing inquiry. Each pattern suggests further exploration. Each answer reveals additional layers. This openness keeps the process calm. There is no final moment of completion, only continued listening. Even mistakes in reading are handled gently. Results are checked, repeated, and verified. Uncertainty is acknowledged rather than hidden. This transparency reduces error and builds trust in the knowledge gained. The process values honesty over speed. Reading DNA has also revealed how much remains unchanged across life. Many sequences are shared widely, reflecting deep continuity. These stable patterns offer reassurance that life's foundations are solid, even as surface details vary. At the same time, subtle differences become visible. These differences are not flaws. They are expressions of individuality. Reading DNA does not seek to erase variation. It seeks to understand it within context, honoring both sameness and difference. You might feel how this respectful approach encourages calm. Knowledge is not extracted violently, it is received. DNA offers information willingly when approached with patience. This exchange feels balanced, not exploitative. As you breathe slowly, you may notice how your own curiosity softens. There is no need to grasp or retain. The idea that understanding can come from quiet attention rather than effort may feel soothing. You are allowed to observe without engaging deeply. The information gained through reading DNA often supports care rather than intervention. It guides decisions gently, offering possibilities rather than commands. This use of knowledge reflects the same restraint seen in biological systems themselves. Even as techniques improve, the underlying principle remains unchanged. DNA responds best to gentleness. Whether being copied, repaired, or observed, it functions most reliably under calm conditions. Life seems to prefer this approach consistently. There is nothing here that demands action from you. The processes of study continue without your involvement. You can let these ideas drift, knowing that understanding does not require vigilance. It arrives when attention relaxes. As this chapter eases toward its close, the image of quiet listening lingers. DNA rests within the cell, undisturbed, while knowledge gathers softly around it, inviting reflection on how these readings deepen our sense of time and history, waiting gently to be explored next as your thoughts fade and rest continues to deepen. You rest now at the edge of deep time, where the present softens and the past stretches gently behind you. This chapter does not ask you to travel quickly or to hold on to dates and numbers. Instead, it invites you to drift alongside history as it unfolds slowly, layer by layer, preserved quietly within DNA. There is nothing you need to remember. The movement here is unhurried, and you are free to let it carry you. DNA has a remarkable ability to endure. Long after a living body has rested and returned to the earth, traces of its genetic material can remain, protected by cold, dryness, or darkness. Ice, soil, and stone become gentle companions, slowing decay and allowing fragments of DNA to persist. These fragments do not speak loudly. They wait patiently, held in stillness for thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of years. In frozen landscapes, time seems to pause. Ice forms slowly, sealing away small pieces of life within its layers. DNA preserved in ice is not suspended in action, but in quiet. Chemical activity slows and change becomes minimal. The cold acts as a caretaker, maintaining structure without interference. Life's instructions rest, untouched, as centuries pass above them. Fossils tell a similar story, though through different means. While most DNA does not survive long enough to become fossilized, traces can sometimes remain within bones or teeth, protected from the elements. These traces are faint, incomplete, yet meaningful. They offer glimpses rather than the full portraits, reminding us that history often speaks in whispers rather than declarations. You might imagine deep history as a long, slow breath. Each exhale releases the present into the past, and each inhale brings new life forward. DNA moves through this breathing world quietly, carried by organisms, preserved by conditions, and shaped by time. There is no urgency in this motion. Time has learned patience. When ancient DNA is studied, it is approached with care. Small fragments are handled gently, copied without disturbing what remains. The goal is not to resurrect the past, but to understand it. These fragments offer insight into how life once adapted, how environments shaped organisms, and how continuity persisted through change. The information carried by ancient DNA often confirms what has long been suspected. Life changes gradually. Adaptations accumulate slowly. There are no sudden leaps in deep time, only steady transitions. This reinforces the sense that evolution unfolds as a calm remembering rather than a series of dramatic events. Ice cores, layered year by year, hold more than climate records. They also preserve biological traces, capturing moments of life as they drifted through ancient air or settled into snow. DNA, trapped in these layers, connects biology to environment, showing how life and climate have always been intertwined. As you listen, you may feel how soothing it is to consider time without deadlines. Deep history does not hurry toward conclusions. It allows processes to unfold fully. DNA participates in this long unfolding, recording adaptations not through intention, but through survival and continuity. Even in warmer environments, where DNA breaks down more quickly, fragments can persist under the right conditions. Dry caves, deep sediments, and protected remains offer quiet shelters. These shelters do not stop time, but they slow it enough for information to endure. What emerges from these ancient traces is not a story of constant upheaval, but of persistence. Life adjusts to shifting conditions by modifying what already exists. DNA reflects this by carrying forward patterns that work, even as details change. The past is never entirely erased. It is folded gently into the present. You are connected to this deep history, whether you think about it or not. The DNA you carry includes sequences that once existed in organisms long gone. These sequences do not bring memories or experiences with them. They bring solutions, refined through countless interactions with ancient worlds. There is something calming in knowing that life has faced many changes before. Ice ages came and went, seas rose and fell, continents shifted slowly. Through all of this, DNA continued moving forward, adapting gently without losing coherence. This endurance offers reassurance. Ancient DNA also reveals how interconnected life has always been. Shared sequences point to common ancestry, linking species across vast distances and time spans. These links do not diminish individuality. They enrich it, placing each life within a broader context of continuity. The study of deep history often requires patience. Results come slowly, and interpretations are cautious. This restraint mirrors the pace of the history itself. Nothing is rushed. Conclusions remain open, allowing understanding to evolve as new information emerges. You may notice how this approach aligns naturally with rest. There is no pressure to arrive at certainty. Understanding grows gradually, much like sleep deepens when it is allowed, rather than forced. Deep time invites the same surrender. Even when ancient DNA cannot be recovered, its absence still tells a story. The fragility of genetic material reminds us that preservation depends on conditions. Life does not leave perfect records. It leaves partial traces, enough to suggest patterns without overwhelming detail. These partial records encourage humility. They remind us that knowledge is always incomplete, shaped by what endures and what fades. DNA offers continuity, but it does not promise completeness. This openness keeps curiosity gentle rather than demanding. As the night continues, the idea of deep history becomes less about the distant past and more about continuity itself. Time flows through life rather than past it. DNA carries this flow quietly, bridging moments without insisting on attention. You might imagine ancient landscapes slowly transforming, forests giving way to ice, then returning again. Through these shifts, life adapts calmly. DNA records these adaptations not as stories, but as patterns that persist when they fit. There is no need to picture specific eras or creatures. Even a sense of vastness is enough. The feeling of time stretching far beyond individual lives can be soothing, reducing the weight of the present moment. As you rest, deep history does not feel heavy. It feels spacious. It suggests that change has always been part of life and that continuity has always accompanied it. DNA holds both together without tension. The long timelines explored here encourage drifting rather than focus. Thoughts can wander freely, knowing that nothing essential will be missed. Deep time does not require attention to be real. As this chapter begins to settle, the presence of ancient DNA lingers softly. Ice, fossils, and sediments remain as quiet witnesses, holding fragments of the past without urgency, inviting a gentle curiosity about how limits and boundaries shape what DNA can and cannot carry forward, waiting calmly to be explored next as rest deepens and thoughts fade onward. You arrive now at a quieter clearing, where understanding feels lighter and less tightly held. This chapter is not about limits as barriers, but as gentle boundaries that create space. DNA is powerful, but it is not absolute. It does not dictate every detail of a life, and it does not carry final answers. There is nothing here to argue or correct, only a calm reassurance that complexity leaves room to breathe. DNA provides instructions, but instructions are not outcomes. They are possibilities, shaped continuously by surroundings, experiences, and time. The same genetic information can lead to different expressions depending on environment, nourishment, learning, and chance. Life unfolds through interaction rather than command. This openness allows individuality to arise naturally. You might imagine DNA as a set of suggestions rather than rules. It offers tendencies, not certainties. Height may be influenced, but nutrition and health also play their part. Metabolism may have a genetic component, yet daily habits matter too. DNA does not operate alone. It participates in a wider conversation with the world. This shared influence reduces pressure. There is no single source of responsibility for who you become. Biology, experience, and circumstance all contribute quietly. DNA does not decide your interests, your values, or your thoughts. These emerge through lived moments, shaped gradually rather than predetermined. Even physical traits influenced by DNA remain flexible. Growth can be supported or hindered by conditions. Healing varies with care and rest. The body responds continuously to its environment, adjusting expression without rewriting its foundation. DNA supports adaptability rather than fixed destiny. As you rest, you may feel relief in knowing that DNA does not carry expectations. It does not judge success or failure. It does not demand fulfillment of a plan. It simply provides a framework within which life explores possibilities. This framework is broad enough to allow variation without collapse. Complex traits, such as behavior or personality, arise from many influences interacting together. DNA contributes, but it does not act alone. Experiences, relationships, and learning shape how tendencies are expressed. This interaction ensures that no single factor holds complete control. The brain itself reflects this openness. While DNA guides its development, connections are strengthened or softened through experience. Learning reshapes pathways continuously. Memory, emotion, and creativity grow through interaction, not instruction alone. DNA provides capacity, not content. You may notice how gently this understanding settles. There is no need to attribute everything to biology. Life is not reduced to code. It is expanded by context. DNA supports life without defining its meaning. Even health outcomes reflect this balance. Genetic predispositions do not guarantee conditions. Lifestyle, environment, and care influence expression. This flexibility allows prevention, adaptation, and resilience. DNA does not seal outcomes in advance. As night deepens, the idea of limits becomes reassuring rather than restrictive. Boundaries create room for growth. Knowing what DNA does not decide allows space for agency, learning, and change. Life remains open-ended. There is nothing you need to analyze here. The details can fade. What remains is a sense of possibility. Our DNA supports life without confining it. This balance between guidance and openness is part of what allows diversity to flourish. You might sense how this perspective eases self-judgment. Not everything about you is predetermined, and not everything is your responsibility. Life emerges from many influences working together quietly. As this chapter softens toward its close, the sense of openness remains. DNA offers structure, but meaning arises elsewhere, shaped by time and experience. This gentle understanding invites curiosity toward how life expresses itself, moment by moment, beyond instruction alone, waiting softly to be explored next, as rest continues to deepen and thoughts drift onward. You arrive now at a place where the journey begins to loosen its shape, where ideas soften and the edges of thought gently blur. There is nothing new to understand here, nothing more to hold. The presence of DNA, which has quietly accompanied every chapter, begins to fade into the background, not because it is gone, but because it no longer needs attention. Like breathing, it simply continues. Throughout this gentle exploration, DNA has appeared as structure, memory, rhythm, and connection. Now, it settles into stillness, becoming part of the quiet environment rather than the focus of it. Life does not ask to be explained endlessly. At some point, it simply asks to be lived, and sometimes to be rested within. You might notice how the body responds when curiosity releases its grip. Muscles soften slightly, breathing deepens without effort. The mind no longer reaches forward. DNA continues its calm work beneath awareness, guiding renewal, repair, and balance without commentary. It does not need supervision. It never has. This quiet trust is part of what allows rest to deepen. Life has been unfolding for billions of years without needing to be watched. The systems that support you tonight were refined long before conscious thought existed. They continue now, steady and reliable, whether or not they are noticed. DNA does not stop when attention fades. It does not pause when sleep arrives. It remains present, supporting every quiet process that allows the body to restore itself. Cells continue their gentle cycles. Repair continues where it is needed. Balance is maintained without effort. As you lie here, you are resting inside a living system that understands rest. DNA does not push endlessly. It responds to rhythms, slowing when slowing is required. Night invites a shift inward, and the body follows willingly. There is nothing to resist. The world beyond you also continues quietly. Forests exchange gases in the dark. Oceans move in slow currents beneath the surface. Microbes divide and rest in rhythms older than memory. DNA links all of this together without drawing attention to itself. You are not separate from these processes. You are one expression of them, resting within the same patterns. This connection does not demand meaning. It simply exists. You do not need to define your place within it. Being here is enough. Thoughts may still arise, drifting gently like clouds. You do not need to follow them. They can pass without resolution. DNA does not require clarity of thought to function. Life continues even when the mind wanders or grows quiet. The idea of a code now feels less like information and more like atmosphere. Something present, supportive, and unobtrusive. DNA is part of the background hum of existence, steady and dependable. You can allow it to fade from focus, trusting it to remain where it belongs. There is a softness in releasing explanation. The world does not need to be solved tonight. The body does not need direction. Everything essential is already in motion. Rest becomes an act of cooperation rather than withdrawal. As awareness drifts, you may feel how wide the perspective has become. Individual details no longer matter. What remains is a sense of continuity, of life unfolding quietly across scales and moments. DNA is one thread among many, woven seamlessly into the whole. You are free to let go now, free to stop following ideas, are free to rest without expectation. The journey has done its work simply by unfolding. As this journey gently comes to a close, notice how wide and still the world feels. So many lives unfolding quietly, whether we see them or not. You don't need to keep their names or stories. They've already done their work. If you enjoy these slow explorations, you can support the channel in any small way that feels natural, so others can find this calm too. But right now, there is nothing to decide and nowhere to go. Let your thoughts soften, your muscles relax, and the night carry you onward, one peaceful breath at a time.